Hi again. So this is the second part of the last video that I shared. I just kind of ran out of time for recording purposes. So I really want you to add this to your notes that are titled Using Reciprocals to Divide Fractions, okay? Because we're going to do the same thing. We're just adding one step. So now we're using reciprocals to divide mixed numbers. Okay, so we have spent quite a bit of time talking about how I don't want mixed numbers, I want improper fractions. And there are only a couple times that we really want to go back to mixed numbers. You're going to see one of those times is on your recipe assignment this week, because we wouldn't in real life say 2.5 cups. When we're pulling cups out of the drawer to use for a recipe, they're in halves, they're not in decimals. So, or thirds or fourths, which is why that's one example we really do need to leave our answer as a mixed number. But if we're talking money, we would not go into the store and say, can I, what can I purchase for $2.50? We would say 2.5. So in that case, a decimal would be helpful. And to go from an improper fraction to a decimal is a pretty quick step. So I feel like that improper fraction is really a form that your number should be in the majority of the time. Okay? And when you have a word problem, then you need to kind of take that extra step and make that decision if decimal, mixed number, or improper is the way to leave your answer. Okay? So what we're going to look at right now is really doing division with mixed numbers, but the way we're going to do it is turn it right into improper fractions, and then it's going to follow all the rules from the last video. So we're really only adding one tiny thing to these problems, okay? So let's just use this as an example. 17 and a half divided by 1 2/5. So step one. What is step one? Tell me. Hopefully you told me. I guess I'll just take your word for it. Step one, turn them into improper fractions, okay? So step one, improper fractions. I trust that you knew that. I know you did. Okay, so to remind you, because I'm seeing some people make some mistakes, really watch this part. If it's 17 and a half, I want to multiply 17 times 2. Okay, so 34. And add, so that's multiply. And then add this number, so 35. But here's the part I'm watching some students forget. You have to keep the denominator, because there's no way 17 and a half is 35. Okay, and we can't change the number. It needs to mean the same thing. And 35 over 2 is 17 and a half, or 17.5. Okay, check it on a calculator if you don't believe me, or do the math. Calculator's probably quicker. Okay, so that is how we change it. So we multiply by the denominator, add that numerator, that goes in the top, and then you have to keep the same denominator. That's really, really important. So I'm going to erase this and move this number back into my problem, okay? So 35 over 2. So here, why don't you pause the video and you make this one an improper fraction. Okay, hopefully you paused it. So if you did, you should have got 1 times 5 is 5, plus 2 is 7 over 5. And we got to keep the division sign right now because it's still a division problem. Okay, so hopefully you got that. Then we're going to change this, like we talked about in the last video, to multiplication. And then we're going to flip this 5 over 7. And now we're going to multiply straight across. Okay, so 35 times 5. 5, 2, 15, 16, 17. So 175 over 14. Now, that is the answer. But we want to check and see if we can reduce this. Okay? Now, I'm having a hard time as a teacher deciding if 175 and 14 have anything in common. So I'm going to take us back a step and remind you how to cross cancel. Because for me, 175 over 14, I probably would leave it because I would not know if anything goes into the two. So by doing the step I'm about to show you, it helps us not have to deal with numbers like this or even do math like this, okay? So if you are encouraged to have smaller numbers at the end of your problem, watch this. Right here, I know that anything in the top and anything in the bottom is going to be divided at the end, okay? So I can cross cancel by seeing anything that has something in common, division-wise. So here and here, I see 7 goes into itself once, so I'm going to divide it and leave a 1. And 7 goes into 35 5 times, so I divided it and left myself a 5. Because I know 35 over 7 is 5 over 1. Okay, hopefully, I mean, when I've been teaching in my white chalk, my students know that. So hopefully you do. And if you have never learned that before, please email me when you're done watching this video, and I'll send you just one more small short video that'll kind of teach you those steps a little bit more in detail. Okay, so once you have done this, you need to multiply what's left over. So 5 times 5 is 25. Now I have 2 times 1. These are easy numbers, 2. And I don't have to reduce. My answer is ready. Okay. Sometimes you still need to reduce, but in this case, I solved it. I'm done. Okay. So let's finish out our steps over here so that you have those. So turn them into improper fractions. Flip second fraction. It's got to be the second fraction. Hopefully you learned that from last week with the SBAC review questions. Okay. Step 3, multiply straight across. And then I'm going to write in here cross cancel if you can. That's really important for people like me who maybe struggle with their numbers a little bit, especially when they get really big. I kind of get overwhelmed. Oh my gosh. But if my numbers are small, I feel really confident, and that's the purpose of cross canceling. And then step 4, I know I'm kind of moving across the board here, is reduce. Let's also simplify. Okay, reduce, simplify, very, very important. It's important for so many reasons, but let me just give you one reason. On a math test, 25 over 2 is your answer. So if you were still sitting with, man, I even forget what the numbers were, 145 or whatever we had, you're not going to go, oh, that means this fraction. You're going to be stuck because you're going to be looking for the numbers you came up with, and they're not going to be there. So if you kind of already have it in that simplified version, you're going to find your answer on that test so much easier, okay? Like I said, if you've never cross-canceled, please email me, and I will send you just a little bit more detail about how to do that because it's a really important strategy, guys. Okay, thank you.